Assembling the main gear for the Grasshopper is pretty easy once you get some pictures so you can see what it looks like. You don't get these rubber bands with the kit for some reason, but these are number 217 O-rings, and you can get them from most industrial supply houses cheap. I'll probably have to put more of them on later once we get the plane built, but this is good enough for now. This is the axle that the wheels actually run on, and besides cleaning it up, I'm going to file a little flat on this so the set screw gets a very good grip and the wheels can't fall off. Another thing I'm doing is replacing the Phillips screw that came with this with a socket head screw because you can get that tighter. And I'll put some blue Loctite on this as well. The hard points for mounting the main gear are easy to find, and you can even see them from the inside of the cockpit. I know this gear looks a little complicated, but it's really not. In addition to checking the rubber bands every now and then, you want to make sure that you keep the sliding parts lubricated. The tail wheel is even easier to set up. The springs actually turn the tail wheel, but they also isolate the servo from any beating around from the tail wheel hitting ruts. There's a pre-drilled hole under the covering. We have to drill pilot holes and add a little CA for the remaining wood screws that hold this tail gear on. I also installed a socket head screw here because tail wheels are notorious for falling off from all the vibration. When installing the springs, if you take your time to bend them both in the same places, the wheel will come out pretty straight. Installing the struts turned out to be one of the more frustrating jobs at this build. The covering's done so well you can't hardly find the hard points. And that's what this shot is all about, so you can see where the hard points are. I used my heating iron followed by some wet paper towel to push the covering down, and you can see the circles beneath the covering then. But you have the advantage now of seeing some actually in place on this wing. The struts look identical because they actually are. This is the wing to the pilot's right. You notice that the screw heads are facing up on this strut. On the other side, the nuts will be facing up. These are the tabs that the struts actually connect to by the landing gear. I found if you take a small file and just round over all these corners, we just don't want any sharp edges that make it harder to slide the strut over it. And when you install this tab the first time, leave it a little loose. And I put a little grease on it just to slick this thing up a little bit. Then bring the strut up and work it on over the tab. And when we put this on the first time or two, you want to make sure that we take our time and work it on to make sure that it's all the way in. We also have to install the wing bolts and make sure we get them good and tightened down. This wing has to be in its final position. Now that everything's installed and the wing's in its proper position, the last thing we have to do is drill a hole for one bolt that's going to secure the strut. This bolt and the wing bolt are the only ones we have to take out or replace when we're assembling or disassembling this plane. And yes, this is a good place to drill a hole in your covering, so just take your time and ease the drill through. Next, you want to install the bolt. We don't necessarily have to tighten that down now, but everything's in its position, so we know this is exactly where the struts have to be. I left all of the mounts just a little bit loose so this strut could go where it wanted to when you're installing them. Now with everything connected, I go around and tighten everything down. And after removing the bolts, getting this wing ready for transport's as easy as it gets. Pull the feet of the wire support out of their holders on the wing, fold the strut down, and that's all there is to it. And getting ready to install the wing is just as fast.